The Sea Woman by Robert E. Howard. The wild sea is beating against the grey sands. The woman, the sea woman, stretches her hands. Her eyes, they are mystic and cold as the sea. With slender white fingers she beckons to me. There are woods in the sea, though the leaves are all grey. The ocean's pale roses lift dim in the spray. I follow. The grey seagull flies. Ah, woman, say woman, there's death in your eyes. Thank you very much. I think a lot of people would be surprised to hear the creator of Conan the Barbarian was a poet, and poetry was his original love. People that read his stories won't be surprised, because his prose often sounds poetic. Here's the first sentence of the story of his that I'm currently reading. The cliffs rose sheer from the jungle, towering rampants of stone that glinted jade blue and dull crimson in the rising sun, and curving away and away to east and west, above the waving emerald ocean of fronds and leaves. That's how he writes. His style is what some would call purple, but it's the vocabulary isn't huge. So it's the kind of purple that teenagers could read. I remember when I was 13, 14, 15, we were all reading Conan and Conan pastiche novels, and I knew it. I recognized then that Robert E. Howard's Conan is the only Conan, okay? Because and that's maybe where I realized authenticity is the thing. Because how could Robert E. Howard be the only one that could write Conan properly? Yeah, I read Robert E. Howard's Conan, and it has this extra element that none of the pastiches, none of the comics have, okay? Conan's more imagistic than pastiche Conan. Here's one of his poems. It's called Sea Woman. It's about a sea woman. But it's really about his relationships, or like his feelings of relationships. Howard's view of them. He was a dedicated and obsessive writer. He was passionate. He would walk down the streets and he'd be walking down the street writing his stories, and people would think he's talking to himself. A small town of 1,800 people in the first half of the 20th century. Even then, his style was old-fashioned. The pre-Raphaelites in the 19th century would have loved his poetry and his Conan stories. It was narrative, visual, and mythical. And they are, too. This poem, The Sea Woman, is at its foundation a story of a man that falls for the charms of a woman, a beautiful woman. The wild sea is beating against the grey sands. The two polarities of earth and sea are male and female here. I mean, this sounds like a stretch in a way, but I mean, this is a poem, okay? The wild sea is beating against the grey sands. The woman comes from the wild sea, and the grey sands is where he is. The grey sand is solid. It's solid ground, right? The wild sea is ground you could sink into. Two polarities of earth and sea are, the water is to be penetrated, and it's mysterious and alluring. A woman comes from the water. It's not a mermaid, it's a woman. He looks into her eyes, mystic and cold, but she calls to him. With slender white fingers, she beckons to me. She tells him, essentially, that her world has the same things as his world, but they're void of color, desaturated. Where's the poem? I have it right behind me. Okay. It's, I just have the one page. I should have had this already. And she says, there are woods in the sea through the leaves, though the leaves are all gray. The ocean's pale roses left dim in the spray, and she's smiling. That's the world she wants. Sorry, it's a messy office. I follow, and then that's like I follow. Robert E. Howard, if you know anything about him, he's not a follower. Okay, he doesn't follow. So he's saying I follow. That's not a good thing from Robert E. Howard. Sea woman. It's a bland world. He doesn't want to go into the bland world where color is desaturated and flowers are gray and so the woman is beauty and imagination. Like, she is beautiful, but yet if you surrender to her charms, and she drags you into her world, it's dull and boring. Robert saw relationships as stifling. This is similar to the siren myth, but instead of like the sirens are, death, and it's a world of new beauty. You're not getting death. They're not going to kill you. They're just going to bring you into a place where all the walls are painted white and everything's all kind of boring. It's a world of no beauty and imagination. And that Conan story, I read the first sentence of it. It starts with a description that sounds like those jagged crystals that you find bunched together, okay? Like he's talking to, like, except they're huge. You've seen those jagged crystals that are really beautiful. Like, imagine them really big. Okay, that's what Conan's climbing on. And this is what I say about the pastiche Conan. They missed the poetry and the weird visuals. They missed the beauty of Conan's world. And next Howard says, if I follow, and we cut away from the story, so we see a bird, hey? So like he's like, I follow, and as she has him, as she's pulling him down, he looks at the bird, the gray seagull flies, and Howard likes to do this in his poems. Like it's like all of a sudden he's talking about a bird. Why is he talking about a bird? The bird symbolizes freedom as he holds her hand, walking into the sea with the beautiful woman. He concludes saying, "Sea woman, there is death in your eyes." The death would be the death of what Robert E. Howard held as his highest value, his imagination, his perception. But I mean, remember, there's an 1,800 person town, and it takes a while to try to find your right compatible person, and the more unique you are, the harder it is to find that person. Ulysses' sirens were less specific than Howard's sea woman. It's like this is a woman, where the sirens aren't really women; they're like these creatures. This is a woman. Now I didn't work out a great song for this one because it's I'm going to do that with every one of them. It's kind of a song, so I have to make it musical. I have to bard it up. I still gave it the bardic treatment because it's a poem in the bardic tradition. After Howard died, his father admitted that he burned an 80-page epic poem. An 80-page epic poem that we don't have. Imagine that. Robert E. Howard's 80-page epic heroic poem. Oh, man. Anyway, he said it was an accident. I don't ascribe blame to him, considering how Howard died. He had no idea his son would be inspiring people a century after he died. Okay, like he had no idea. Because Howard was a pulp fiction author whose work was expected to be thrown away and forgotten. Pulp fiction was, like in those days, comic books and pulp fiction were considered trash. I can understand how he would have seen Robert's imaginative fixations as self-destructive and, blame writing itself on his tragic death. He should have been a doctor. That's probably what he was thinking, My own dad was always against me going into art. Like it's like they tried everything they could to get me not to be an artist. It's like took like I was in my 30s and he was still telling me quit, become an accountant, do something like that. I didn't like math. I don't even like math. I think Howard should have moved to the city. Small town in the 1930s in Texas, 1,800 people. No, I don't want to insult these people at all, these good people at all. But Robert E. Howard needed and I don't mean to insult his one girlfriend that he ever had, but like a town of 1,800 people, you got to think how many people your age to date, and it's a very small pool. And when you're someone like Robert E. Howard, you kind of need someone that he should have moved to the city, or somewhere where someone that could like not. I mean, if he felt this about his girlfriend, maybe it's not all girls he would feel that about. Okay, it just drives me crazy that we lost him. That's all. So I'm trying to solve the problem of how we could keep Howard. But it's done. It's done. The people there, they thought he was crazy or schizophrenic, and the one girlfriend he got was like she ended up writing a book about him. I never read it. I don't even want to watch the movie because I just want to have the real Howard in my head, his idea of a girlfriend was to be tamed or restricted. And, you could see it, like she has expectations on him. Was he right about women? I'm married many years, so I disagree, but my wife is special. I feel exactly like he did with every girlfriend I had before my wife. I know exactly how he feels. Of course, my wife has a gun at my head right now as I speak, but honest, Dave, I'm just joking. It's the truth. It's the truth. You when you're an artist, kind of like a weird creative person, it's not everybody. It's not everybody you can get like you want to get. I don't know. Even then, women are domesticating, like even like the wildest woman you're going to get, Robert, she's still going to be domesticating. And that's what he's saying. If you look at Conan, you understand what Robert means, but we can't live like Conan. I guess celebrities can romance and leave him like Conan did, but Howard knew this. Howard knew he couldn't live like Conan. He knew he took the whole barbarian lifestyle very seriously. But he knew. He said, like, there's no way I could live like that myself. It's just some sort of fantasy that he never resolved within himself. And I call him Robert sometimes, like as if I know him. I wouldn't say Will for Shakespeare or Yeats, I wouldn't say, hey, Will, something about Robert is relatable to me. I guess being on YouTube, a medium nobody expects art and poetry from, and here I am, being locked out. Well, I'm locked out of legit publishing, so this is my only choice, and so I'm going. This is like the modern pulps in a way. I even dreamed about Robert E. Howard. This wasn't a night dream. I had this when I was awake. It was crystal clear, though. Crystal clear. Like full reality. And it was tragic. He wasn't in heaven. But he was really friendly and oddly cheerful in spite of his predicament. It's like an actual memory I had, but greater because it was so magical. I have this weird feeling that I know him. We get this reading authors, and the author says, "You don't know me," but we have your inner thoughts. Well, we don't know you. His work enters my dreams like no other author seems to as well. I've been dreaming. I've been having these Robert E. Howard kind of directed dreams, and I usually read and I don't get it entering my dream like this. Is this because his work is so dreamlike? And that's what I think that pastiche novels and Conan novels really kind of miss, that weird dreamlike kind of quality of his writing and the whole mythos. Anyway, I hope you love his poem. and the comic I made into it, and my musical reading of it, or my quasi-musical reading of it. I'll play it again for you before I leave, and check out the links below for my other comics. Only some of my comics are poetry. Like, I have adventure and humor and all sorts of different things, you know. But I just figure for YouTube, I'm not gonna show an adventure comic. I'm gonna do something that's bardic. This is the medium. The medium is the message. The massage. The medium is the message. So the medium says, I need to have poetic comics instead of just adventures, because when you read a comic, you wanna get into it in a different way. You don't want like someone reading it to you. So here's the song. Here's his poem again with my visuals. The Sea Woman by Robert E. Howard. The wild sea is beating against the gray sands. The sea woman, stretches her hands. Her eyes, they are mystic and cold as the sea. With slender white fingers she beckons to me. There are woods in the sea, though the leaves are all gray. The ocean's pale roses lift dim in the spray. I follow. The gray seagull flies. Ah, woman, sea woman, there's death in your eyes. Oh, if you check out my links below and buy a comic by El Shaddai 2. Like, El Shaddai 1 is, I think it's good, but El Shaddai 2 is better. El Shaddai 1, like, it took 20 years to make it. It's like, so there's learning process and there's like life, and it's like the indie one, you know, and number 2 is the one that's like the fully realized one, and everything I get better and better and better and better. That's the thing about comics. Like with music, you always get the first one. Because the first album's always gonna, like, the first few albums are always gonna be the best, and then everything else is like kind of lesser. But with writing and art, it's different. You just get better and better. So goodbye until my next video.